What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I have a knife video for you today. 2018 Most Innovative American Design from Blade Show. I didn't even see that sticker before. To tell you the truth, I've already been in this box. I literally ripped this out of the box immediately and started using it. There are some things that I want to talk about with this knife that I have run into that I've never run into with other knives, and so if you're going to spend the money for one of these, I wanted to talk to you about it and tell you what I learned. This is a Rick Hinderer knife. For those of you that don't know, if you look at a Rick Hinderer knife, it will be kind of in the same ballpark as something like, you know, when you start thinking about budget of knife and that kind of stuff, you start thinking about, you know, the Spartan Harsey folder, start thinking about the Chris Reeve, Sebenza. These knives are obviously not inexpensive. They are heavy duty, especially this Spartan Harsey folder. Maybe not exactly comparable, these two, but they, in my mind, they are, because they're premium knives, and they are also not inexpensive, and they are also extremely heavy duty. And they kind of carry the same way. The size is a little bit different, but I use them for the same things, right? And so when we start to look at a Hinderer, I'm like, oh, it's going to be just like those, but different and awesome. Well, let's get in the box. Let me show you, and I'm going to tell you a story. Actually, I didn't even look at any of this stuff. So we got a sticker, so that's cool. Whoever this scribble is apparently hand assembled and tuned this knife. For instructions on how to change out the tri-way pivot system, you can go to this website, web address, which is a YouTube video. There are Teflon and brass washers in here. You can swap this out to be on washers or be on bearings. I think it comes on bearings. They call it the tri-way pivot system, so you can, you know, choose your pivot system, which is pretty cool. And some tactical peanuts in there. And here is the knife. Now, of course, I've been in here already. I have used this knife for the last few days, but I just wanted to show you the unboxing experience. This is the Hinder XM18 3.5 inch in battle blue with a red G10 scale. And this is the Bowie blade. So that's the one that I went for because I really like Bowie blades and I think they're awesome. Okay, now let's talk about this knife. It is the tri-way pivot system. So, oh, and also the other thing that's super important about this knife, it is the non-flipper. Oh, sorry about my smashed fingernail. I probably should put a Band-Aid on that before videos. I smashed it and the nail is starting to come off in a bunch of pieces. Anyway, okay, so there should be, normally on one of these knives, there's a flipper right here. And so when you go to deploy this knife, you can flip it like this and the blade will deploy and it will come out. But this is the non-flipper version, so therefore, the way you deploy it is you use the thumb stud, okay? I watched the release videos from a few years ago when this knife first came out, and Rick Hinderer said that he made the detent on it. So that would be this little, like where it clicks in and notches in like that, like right there, and it takes some resistance to pull it out. That detent is a little stronger than on flipper version because he doesn't want the knife to accidentally deploy. Which, okay, that makes sense. But what I've realized is that this knife is super susceptible to that detent sticking. And I was really bummed out by this. This knife is not inexpensive. So I was hoping, and it is considered to be a Grail kind of level knife, you know, at the price point that it is, at the reputation that it has, at the following that it has, at the, you know, accessories available and stuff. This is kind of one to get. I got it out of the box and it wouldn't open. I mean, it literally just, I would, it would just, like even right now, like see, I can't get it to open. So if I set this knife aside and we come over here to our Sebenza. Now Sebenzas do slow roll open. They don't actually flip open like that, right? They're made, but the detent is nice and you can just open the knife, right? This one, sometimes it does, and see, and sometimes it doesn't. Like, okay, we'll get to why in a minute. We come over here to the Spartan Harsey folder. Now the Spartan Harsey fold, this knife is actually more expensive than this one, but not as expensive as, maybe they're about the same price, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, it's more expensive than the Hinder. But when you open this knife, now this one is also on washers, and so therefore it will not just flip out super fast. Actually, this is my new one. Let me get my older one that has a bunch more use on it, and it has broken in. So this is my other Spartan Harsey folder, and this one, well, I guess it doesn't flip all the way out either. But you can see that the detent doesn't hold it in, right? Like it comes out. Where this one can stick real bad. Okay, what I figured out is this. When you look at these three knives side to side, they're all frame locks, right? Which means that you have to bend the frame out of the way of the area in the blade that locks it so that you can unlock. This one actually has a steel lock bar insert. So you push that out of the way and now the blade can close. What can happen is if you're going to deploy the blade, so let's do it from the back side. If you're going to deploy the blade, you can see that that lock bar is pressing against the blade. So if you squeeze right there, you're pushing against the blade, which means that it will be harder for it to deploy. You're actually pushing on the lock bar, and then that lock bar, where the detent ball actually lives, is now locking the blade too hard because you're pushing it against the blade. But here's the thing that's super annoying about that knife. Not annoying, I'm just learning about it. It's something that I've learned. This knife, same thing. If I push on this real hard, it'll still deploy, okay? So it won't actually stick the blade. Okay, I can push on this backside. I can push this against the blade. See, that's where the little detent ball lives, is in that little hole. I can push this against the blade as hard as I want, and the knife will still deploy. Which is cool. Here's my other one. I can do the same thing. Push this against the blade as hard as I want, and the knife, well, that one actually did it a little bit harder. Okay, so here we go. So this is the thing, is when you push that little detent ball against the blade, it makes it harder to deploy. But they still do. All three of those knives still do. This one is the most susceptible to lock bar stick that I have ever had. Okay, here's what I'll tell you right now. I am barely touching it. Barely, see, right, there's my finger. Just to hold the knife. I'm barely touching it and it's completely locked. You have to be completely off the lock bar for the knife to deploy properly, which is super annoying because how do you do that? So example, you notice that this is tip down carry and the rest of my knives are tip up. I made this one tip up because normally that's how I like all my knives to be, right? I mean, who carries tip down? But I had to put it back so that I would have a place to put my hands so that I could deploy the blade. So basically what I've figured out here is I just need to stay off that lock bar, which is fine. It's totally fine. I have no problem doing that. The knife is incredible. So first of all, the factory edge is probably one of the best factory edges I've ever had on a knife ever. Like don't even have a desire to like want to touch it up or even strop it or anything. Like it's phenomenal. I love the blade shape. The handle is, you know, like the handle shape, the knife shape itself is so cool. The weight is awesome. Everything about it, I absolutely love it. I think I want to get either a titanium scale for this or a micarta scale. I don't know which, only because, and this is, or maybe I'll just take a file and hit the edges right here. I just want to soften up these edges a little bit, right? It just makes sense that you would have, because of the pattern that's machined in here, that you would have these little kind of corners. It totally makes sense. So it's not a fault of the knife, obviously. It's just not, like right here, there's like a little, you could have a little hot spots. So maybe I'll just take some, I don't know, 800 grit sandpaper or something and just hit these corners, maybe soften those up just a little bit, just a little milling feeling right there. Nothing, again, it's not a fault of the knife, it's just how this material works, right? So I was thinking, what if I got a titanium scale, which is $200, so I don't know. Or maybe I'll get a micarta one. I don't know what micarta color I want to get to go with that blue. Anyway, this is really cool. I love this knife. It's super, super cool. I just had to learn. You know, I've heard about, you know, lock bar pressure affecting the deployment of a knife, but I've never actually had to deal with it. So I was just really surprised by it. It was just, you know, like that, see? Now, if I scoot back off of it, it deploys perfectly. So anyway, it's just something I had to learn. I would have thought that I would have had that sort of issue with, you know, these other knives, but I just didn't. And so it surprised me. Is it a design flaw? I guess not. Just surprised me. Anyway, I love this thing. I got this one at River's Edge Cutlery. I don't have an affiliate link for them or anything, but River's Edge Cutlery, I've gotten a couple of knives from them now, and they are really, really cool. So make sure you check River's Edge Cutlery out. And there you go. That's a Hinder XM18 in battle blue with red G10 scales, S45 VN, harpoon, non-flipper. That's a lot of words to describe a knife. But good grief, it's cool, and I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be my last Hinderer. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and the like button, and I'll see you in the next video.